I'm Chris,
And I'm Kylie. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation. We are here with the one and only Amanda Thomas of Amanda Thomas Creative.
One and only.
So excited.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm truly so grateful to be here with you guys.
Well, this podcast really wouldn't even exist without you because you created our logo, you created our podcast art, you created our fonts and our colors. All of what you see with the Odyssey branding is credited to Amanda. And it turned out amazing.
far beyond anything I could even remotely put together.
Yeah, I don't know
So
how you
I couldn't
do it.
even imagine it, and it came out awesome.
Well, you guys are just so easy to work with. So I feel like it's just truly a reflection of all of the goodness that you gave to me and my team to create with.
Well, I don't know
love
if
it.
we can take much credit, but I'm excited to dig into the brain of Amanda Thomas today because
Ooh.
you are probably one of the most creative people I know, and you have this amazing gift of incorporating all the things we talk about on this podcast, like mindfulness, visualization, tapping into your most creative thinking in your prefrontal cortex. Like, it's so cool how you turned our conversations into this like masterpiece of a website. And we're digging into how you think and how this works because we need to learn from it. So we're going to talk about how to tap into creativity today.
Man, what an introduction.
Well, it's
Thank
all
you.
true. It's all
Thank
true.
you.
So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have endearingly termed or not coined this term, but endearingly called myself a 9-to-5 dropout turned multi-passionate entrepreneur back in, gosh, I can't even tell you the year at this point, but when I was 25, I started my very first business, which was an energy healing practice. And I was doing that all the while working with a national healthcare nonprofit that I was doing marketing, fundraising, event management with. And so kind of juggling multiple balls in the air, if you will, while I was building this first business of mine and serving the community through facilitating these healing spaces where you could come and just be. It was really cool to see how many people during that time needed a space to just shut off the world, to shut off the noise, to shut off the hustle, and just have somebody tell them it's okay to rest. It's okay to be still. I always start off those sessions by saying something along the lines of let go of all of your checklists, your to-do lists, your worries. There's nowhere else for you to be. There is nothing else for you to do but just to be here now.
So how did you get into that? Is that like you just grew up with mindfulness as a normal pattern, or?
Well, before you answer that, I also have to tell everyone that Amanda is wearing a t-shirt that says be here now and be happy. So not only does she say these things, but she like truly wears them.
You know, I have to credit this to one of my dear friends, Emily Kelly. She is such a thrifty gal when it comes to clothes, and so she gifted me this shirt. So
It's so
it's kind of
perfectly
my
you.
good luck shirt.
So tell us, how did this evolve?
So this kind of goes back a ways. I was not always immersed in this culture of mindfulness. I was very much the opposite. I was immersed in hustle culture, immersed in perfectionism, immersed in wear all of the hats and never take any of them off type of living. And so it didn't really occur to me that I needed to settle until I had some really big life events transpire. In a very short period of time, I graduated from Ohio State, moved here to Indy with my significant other, got engaged, got incredibly sick with a chronic illness, lost my father, who at the time I was estranged from, lost my grandfather. And so I was just spiraling in all of these massive life events with no tools to handle my grief. And so in experiencing all of that, it's what ultimately led me to find and seek out a Reiki practitioner. And I had my first Reiki session. And interestingly enough, in that session, things transpired that I never could have even imagined take place. And it was that moment that I feel like it really just changed the entire, I say it changed the entire trajectory of my life, but I totally believe that it was divine intervention and that was just the moment I needed to awaken and to begin following the path that I was really being guided to lead.
Whew, I have goosebumps. I love when things like that happen.
Yeah.
So eye-opening.
Yes, very.
So what did you learn from that session that then changed the course of your life?
Well, in that session, she told me that she was offering a training that was going to take place 3 weeks later. And so I was very intrigued, and she was really encouraging of me to join. And so it was going to that session that it was to deal with the grief, but then that session then became the invitation to then do something with my grief and to take my grief and turn that pain into purpose. And that didn't happen overnight, nor did that happen 3 weeks later at the training. It became this then 5-year experience, which, you know, even to this day, I'm still managing grief. It hits you when you least expect it, but I now have the tools to manage that because I understood how to attend to and attune my energetic body with my physical needs, with my emotions, with my mind.
That's one thing I think is very important for people to understand is people will look at you and think that's the happiest fucking person I've ever seen. There's clearly nothing ever going to bother her. And like life is all sunshine and rainbows. But you still deal with real life stuff. And having the tools available is absolutely fantastic. You took life like everybody else has to take life. You just decided you were going to utilize it, do something with it, and work through it. I think that's incredible. But it goes to show that people that are still really, really good at something and are down the road really far still are humans. We still have feelings, we still have emotions, and we still have to work through them. I think that's really cool.
That's just it, Chris. It's this blending and recognition of both our divine self, both the soul self and the human self, and bringing them into coherence together. That's where the alchemization takes place.
Man, I think you should repeat that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. So poetically said.
I know. That's good.
Well, it's interesting. I know we're here to get into creativity, and
This is part of the process.
yes, it is. It's like creativity. There's so many synonyms to creativity. It is imagination. It is soulful. It is that inner light. It is poetry. It is artistry. It really is whatever you want it to be, because when we look at what creativity is, it's this dormant, infinite potential that lies within each of us that is just waiting for us to activate it.
Holy shit. Man.
Ooh, getting
Makes me
goosebumps
sweat,
this
man.
whole time. Oh. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. You get into Reiki. Then what happens to your career?
I tried to leave my 9 to 5 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
I love my used to be boss, and we giggle about it now because we've both set sail into different career directions. But I tried to leave her. We were a team of 2 5 times to pursue my practice. And the very first time I tried to leave was Monday, March, what was that, 9th? And then Friday, March 13th, 2020 took place. And that was the day the world shut down.
Yes.
And so I came back to her and I'm like, actually, can I stay a while? I don't know what's happening. So can I hang out here for a little while longer? And she's like, yes.
Can I unquit, please?
So then thus began the 18-month progress of me slowly leaving. And then I finally got to that finish line, ready to take this new business by the horns. And I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. So I went to leave and go wear this entrepreneurial hat, which I did. But it had to look so different. And Chris, I see you laughing because I know you know how children really just change your life.
Yeah. Aggressively. Aggressively.
Yes. And it's in the best way possible. I know that I would not embody all of the things that I aspired to embody without becoming a mother. But man, did I put up a fight. Did I go down with a lot of resistance. And truly, it wasn't until almost a year and a half postpartum that I feel like I finally embraced myself as a mother. So
kids will beat it out of you. You just got to take it. My first daughter was colic, so she screamed like for the first year of her life all day long, every day. I would put her in between pillows and just cry. 'Cause it's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm working midnights, going to school full time, and this is the loudest human I've ever been around. And every time she'd poop, it would go up her back into her hair, and it's like...
Not the blowout. Not
it's
the
like,
blowout.
But it's true. You have to get like a year in,
yes.
and it's like, listen, this is just life now.
Yes.
I can't argue this anymore.
Yeah.
It's unrealistic to argue because I am raising a human, and they will be around longer than me. So
Right?
I better just get used to it. Yeah.
That's a wild thought to have, but they will be. So anyways, I went to, take this jump, take this leap of faith. And it's the greatest leap that I've ever taken because it was saying yes to believing in myself, saying yes to trusting in myself, even though at the time maybe I didn't have those muscles fully cultivated. I think there was a bit of naivety and a bit of just youthfulness to this romantic idea of quit your day job and follow your dreams. And I'm so grateful that I have a partner who is incredibly supportive of me doing that. Even to just be here today, he had to rearrange schedules and he just is so supportive. And I could not do half of what I do without him, especially co-parenting together, especially, leading this parenthood life where you do have to really finagle your time and maximize your resources because they aren't all of yours anymore. And I know I'm going off on now this, taking you down this winding road of this journey, but I feel like it's just an important part of where now I've gotten to be today because I don't think I would be sitting in this room. I don't think that I would have been your creative partner had my daughter not come into the scene. I think I would have still been a starving artist and trying to make it as a spiritual coach and teacher when I realized that never went away. The medium in which I am utilizing to bring forth these teachings and these lessons of love just changed.
I think kids are really cool because it's how do you say it? Unprovoked, unknown stimulus, right? Like, I grew up watching 80s action flicks, like war movies all the time. I watch Disney movies and cry constantly because I have daughters. And that would have never been me if I didn't have them, but it also would have led me down a different path in life, So it's really interesting. But no, I don't think that's a tangent at all. I think in order to get to the conversation of creativity, we have to find out what built the creative mind that is Amanda Thomas. And that is this. That's all of the stimulus that led up to this point.
I saw something on social media recently, and it was about the creative process that we're not meant to follow and go from point A to point B to point C. We're intended to go from point A to point F to point C to point Z to point E to point, skip around the alphabet take the scenic route. If we don't, then what's the point?
Well, even like in the gym, you look at the path of quote unquote linear progression, you map it out at 30,000 feet. It looks like a slow progression from, 1 to 100. But if you zoom in, it is all over the place. It goes from, like you're saying, 1 to 50 back to, -2 to, it just is all over the place. But if you zoom out over the span of your life, it's heading you in a specific direction. It's just really hard to see when you're in the mix per day or every day or whatever you're doing, because it seems like it's all over the map when it really is just building specific parts of your body and your mind to get you to the next level. It might take a low point in order for you to understand why the next step needs to happen. So
that's the beauty of contrast, that if we don't experience the contrast of rage, how will we ever know what true peace feels like?
Yeah, you have to have them both.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, and I think the old cliche adage of hindsight's 20/20, everything makes perfect sense now, looking in the rearview mirror at all of the twists and turns you took in your life and in your career, because you, I don't think, would be the magical creator that you are today if you hadn't taken each one of those turns. Like, your Reiki practice shows up in what you do. So for those who I have not bragged to about Amanda, when we sat down with her to create our website, she took us through a guided visualization for, 15 minutes maybe-ish. So we spent 15 minutes just listening to Amanda talk in this like therapeutic, soothing hypnosis voice. And she tapped into all of our creativity, took us to corners of our brain that we probably hadn't dusted cobwebs off of in a long time. And she had us think about what Odyssey feels like and what it smells like and what it looks like, the colors that we see when we think about Odyssey. Like, every step along the journey of creating our website was so intentional. Every question you asked was so intentional. Literally, there wasn't a step in there that didn't need to be in there, or anything that wasn't purposefully put into the process. And it was so organized. It was like you had been doing this your entire life. And it was like, you can tell everything that you had done in your career had to happen in order for you to create this amazing experience that now business owners get to benefit from. Like, I feel so lucky. It was the easiest money I've ever spent. Truly.
That's why I don't believe in luck, right? Nobody's going to look at you and say, there might be people that say, you're so lucky you have this talent. Well, that's fantastic, but there's like all of these things and years and years and years and trauma and discomfort and pain and happiness that all created that quote unquote luck. The luck is just an accumulation of life that you decided to maximize and do something with. So I think it's interesting because a lot of people want to skip that step. They want to just say, well, maybe one day I'll be lucky. Well, maybe one day you'll be lucky, but like probably not. That's about the same equation as playing the lottery. Things aren't just going to show up. They'll show up once you intentionally put your time towards something and work hard. Then things, quote unquote, show up.
Right. There is no knight in shining armor that is going to come and save you.
That is my absolute favorite saying.
Chris says that all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Kindred spirits, my friend.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nobody is here to save you.
Yeah.
So if you want it, go get it. I say it to guys in the gym all the time. It's not your fucking shoes, bud. It's not your $400 belt. That shit's not coming to save you. It's work. Put it in. Same with everything in life.
It's so interesting you talk about that, because our external reality is such a mirror to our internal state of being.
Preach.
And we can try to fake it till we make it, sure, but it's going to feel off. It's not going to feel resonant. You're not going to align with the opportunities that are truly meant for you.
You won't even see them.
Exactly.
Just blow right past them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So true. So, Amanda, I don't even know how to ask this question, but let me just talk and then you figure out how to answer it.
Sure.
So, it's usually how this relationship goes.
Like, that's not the first time she said that.
So, there is a lot of process that goes into how you tap into your creativity. Like there's process in how you walked us through our design phases of the website. Like you're very organized and methodical. But when you think of creativity, you think of like imagination and thinking outside of the box and not having structure. So it feels like to me there's this like real dichotomy between the two. And I'm curious how you see them fitting together.
I love that. And I'm a huge cosmic profile junkie. So I love to look at, when I say cosmic profiles, like these different blueprints. It would be equivalent to your assessments, but let's get a little woo.
Okay.
And so one of them is called the gene keys. And so there is a gene key in which is considered to be in my cosmic chart, my life's purpose, and it is to use both my right and my left side of my brain. And so I think it's very important with creativity to also create boundaries, because if we don't have a framework to place then all of this unknown and infinite potential into, it will never take shape. It will always just be. So giving myself boundaries is a practice and a discipline that is just as essential to my creative process as is the dream mindset, as is the think outside of the box mindset.
Okay, so I need to know what the boundaries look like, and I need to know what the dream part looks like. So tackle whichever first. But...
Yeah. Well, the dream mindset feels a lot more accessible to me because I am such a poet at heart. I am such a romantic at heart that I don't mean that in a, I'm going to sit down and write poetry or write my husband love letters, although I love doing that. But I just view life with a romanticized viewpoint. My glasses are rose colored. Not all the time, right? I am human. But when I can perceive life to be beautiful and observe, and this is really part of that process, it's in my day-to-day life. It's in the small, mundane experiences where I challenge myself to see the novelty. And back to our kids' conversation, having children, having little ones, where I was with my daughter today. We were laying belly down on our deck, watching ants march for a very long period of time, far past the place in which I would have enjoyed. But I was just present because then I got curious, not only about the ants, but I got curious about her observing the ants and just experiencing that novelty in that moment, where that moment could have been like, yeah, my kid's watching bugs. Great. But to shift that perspective and to romanticize it, to beautify it, to see how rich and abundant and prosperous that moment was, is so essential to then me taking that to the proverbial drawing board, which is a notepad and piece of paper for me to then write on when I go to do my creative work for my business. And so I take that same energy, because I have that now lived experience at a cellular level in my body, and activate it in the moment in which I'm going to do work for a client. And I tap into that feeling, that sensation. So I really look to my body as this partner, as this vessel, this conduit for creativity to flow through. And so that's really a part of the dreamer process. The boundary process looks like setting up specific time in my day when I know my creativity is at its best. I know at the end of the day, I'm not going to be at my sharpest, at my most thoughtful self. I know that morning times are when it's rich. There's something about the morning for me that I am like, this is it. And so that also happens to be when I have childcare, which is helpful.
Well, you plan the childcare around the creativity time, I'm sure, right?
Well, not necessarily, but
Oh.
it just kind of happens to work that way.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's aligned.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The childcare is very aligned in that way.
Okay.
But I also know too, then post bedtime, there's this magical hour from like 8:30 to 9:30 where I feel very vibey and feel very connected to a more esoteric sense of self. And so that's also when I can kind of tap in. But it's utilizing those time periods throughout my day to cultivate a sense of structure for myself that is so helpful to know, okay, at this moment, this is when I'm going to really be in the energies that revolve around curating something for Odyssey. And then I go to this whole aspect that has been brought over from my energy work, and it is intention setting. That intention is everything. And so when I set that intention too for the day to know from 9 to 10 a.m., I'm working on this. I've already set the intention, and then I trust, and so it is.
Easy peasy.
Easy, yeah.
I love it. Okay, so the two things I'm taking away is romanticize life and be present. I mean, what you talked about in all examples was like you were just truly present wherever you were. Being present with your daughter helps you become more present when you're with your work. And that way we're not giving each 50% of our time. You're not sitting in front of your desk thinking, oh, I should be watching my daughter right now, or I should be doing XYZ right now. You're totally dialed in to what you're doing. So you have really trained your brain to focus.
That is such a delicate dance, presence, because there are opportunities abundant to distract us.
Yes.
And to be able to just dial in, zero in, is such a gift to give yourself. It really is the way in which you can cultivate and access that dormant energy of infinite potential inside of you. It's truly coming back to that original statement we made here, letting go of anything outside of this moment and trusting that all you need to do is be here now.
I love it.
Dormant energy of infinite potential. That needs to be on a shirt.
Yeah.
How's that for
That was
a
awesome.
slogan?
Yeah.
It's
that's killer.
incredible. Well, and we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but what Amanda is talking about with her rose-colored glasses is realistic optimism. And it's an essential part of tenacity, which is our ability to bounce back and overcome setbacks, because you have this just great perspective on life that even if things are challenging, I'm going to learn something from it. Or there's so much good in the world, I'm not going to let this one bad thing overshadow what I believe to be true about our life and our world and the gifts that we've been given. So you didn't know it, but you're teeing us up perfectly for one of our future domains.
Fantastic.
So we'll revisit that. But I'm curious. So, like, let's say, for example, after you had the call with us to brainstorm and visualize and, you know, just like get all of our thoughts out with you, how did you go about starting? Like, what does that process look like for you?
I love this question because I've given this a lot of consideration myself. Not every single project looks the same, but most of the time I get started through my imagination. And I truly believe that our imagination is the gateway in which illuminates our intuition. And so being...
I have to write these down.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Imagination.
I don't even feel like I know what I'm doing anymore. By the way, she's taking over our podcast. She'll be the forever host now.
Yeah.
Welcome to Redefining Resilience.
With Amanda Thomas only.
Oh, man.
Keep
you
going.
guys.
Keep going.
So it really comes to me through my imagination. And I want to talk about the imagination because I think that feels like such a far-fetched concept for so many people.
It's like childish.
Yes, exactly. And there is a difference between childish and childlike.
So true.
When we can tap into a childlike essence of self, there is, again, that dormant, unlimited potential that awaits us to just greet it. And so I hear often from folks that I'm working with that they aren't creative. And they're like, that's why I'm hiring you. Well, great. But we are partners in this because you are creative. It's just a sense of self that is waiting for you to recognize it. And I think one of the most accessible ways that we can tap into that creativity, which is a part of this process of this question you just asked, is visualization and recognizing that what we imagine, there are some cultures that truly don't even have a word for imagination, because that in which they can dream, that in which they can conjure up within their mind's eye is deemed just as real as reality itself. And so it's back to that internal versus external world. And when we can ignite our internal world to come online, it becomes just as real as the external. So when you say, let's dig into this wacky brain of yours, it's almost like living in these two different states from time to time, because there's this whole world that's going on within you. And so what I do after those calls is tap into that inner world. I usually will go for a walk, and it's usually not the same day either, because I think that there needs to be an understanding that while there is unlimited creative resources around us, we might not always feel connected to that creative self. And so we have to honor that natural creative cycle that we're ebbing and flowing through. And that is why I also give myself the boundary of the timeline that I set with clients, because it doesn't take me that amount of time to build the actual platform or to do the actual work. But I give my creativity the breathing space that it needs in order to be refined, because the first thing you put out, that's your first draft. That's probably not going to be the final edition, right? So we need to give ourselves that space, and that's what I do with myself. I give myself space to tap into my inner world, which usually starts with some sort of visualization that takes place while I'm walking. I call them my work walks, and I'll go for a work walk, and I will just set the intention that I'm going to think about this project and get to it. And I'll see what I start imagining, what starts to come alive for me. And that usually serves as my starting place. And then from there, it becomes like a giant puzzle. And I don't get all the pieces at the same time, but I just continue to take what I get and to put it into action until I have a final product to deliver.
So essentially, you're flexing your creative muscle and training it. So you can't train that muscle all day long, every day. It'll get worn out. So you're just giving it the optimal amount of training every day for it to grow. It's just a byproduct of training.
What he said. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this is amazing.
I know.
So the amount of body awareness is outstanding, because I'm assuming you get signals like, hey, I'm a little bit tired, or I'm just worn out right now, or for some reason, I'm frustrated. So when you get those,
how do we tune into them?
Yeah, like how do you understand the signals from your body that say, hey, this is creative hour, or this is not? Like, shut her down,
Go take a shower.
Because we live in a culture that says, go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. If you don't produce 24/7, then you're a loser. The problem is we just have so much burnout and people have never been taught to listen to their body or pay attention to the difference between pain and pressure. I mean, how do you manage that?
Chris, that is just chef's kiss, like the best question, because that, I think, is the gateway to almost anything worthwhile in life. Our bodies are meant to be our partners. Our bodies are meant to be these vessels, these houses for all in which makes up us, while we're here in this life. And so what you're describing, I would consider reading energy, because you're reading the subtle energies of your own body. And if you want to break down energy, let's just look at it like emotion, energy in motion. And so it's tuning into how you feel, and then from there, noticing how then you physically feel. So there's the emotional aspect of how do I feel? And then there's the physical aspect of what sensations can I observe? Do I feel really relaxed right now? Do I feel at ease? Do I feel tight? Do I feel a pressure? And oftentimes you can notice those things very easily if you take a moment to be present. It comes back to that piece of presence, that if you can let go of all of the noise, even for 30 seconds, and be with yourself, you can start to tune into those subtle sensations. And one of the greatest tools that we have readily available to us at all times to tune into those subtle sensations is our breath. That using our breath, we are literally bringing life force in and out of our body. And using the breath, we can notice I'm shallowly breathing right now. I'm breathing deeply. And that right there can tell us what nervous system state we're in. And from there, then we can continue to dig deeper and deeper, and even acknowledge the exact spot in our body in which we are feeling unease at, or feeling a great sense of peace at, by just allowing ourselves to fall into that state of conscious awareness that is in the present moment.
So here's a big question. So this action, these set of actions require a whole lot of self-actualization, because you have to assume that you can be better at a future state. And personal responsibility is what it really boils down to, because it is a measurable act of I'm taking control of my life and the things that are happening to me. So for some of the people I work with, this would be great to explain a little deeper, and just for me personally, how do you start the journey of biting off these concepts? Because if you try to start this right away, this is massive. To be able to say, I need to be quiet for 30 seconds and listen to my body. When we first got together, we were talking about, how we like our mornings quiet, right? We drink coffee in the morning. Sometimes we don't say a whole lot, but we just enjoy the mornings together. We've done that ever since we've been together. But there's a lot of people, we were discussing it one morning, that cannot sit in silence. That is the loudest thing in the world, is quiet. I even was working at a place for a little while and asked 10 people in a break room just to get some data. I said, if you had to sit in a room by yourself for 10 minutes with no phone and no stimulus, that's no newspapers, magazines, nothing, what would you do? Every one of them was like, that would freak me out. There's absolutely no way. I could never do that. We're talking 10 minutes. So how do you coach somebody or help somebody say, just start the process?
So I feel like you'll appreciate this a lot, Chris, as you and I have had these conversations before, with the idea that the physical body can be used to access the emotional body. And so if complete and utter silence and quiet feels unattainable, then start with some sort of movement. That could be as simple as a walk. That could be as simple as dancing is such a go-to for me. Maybe that doesn't feel attainable for some, but just moving the body in an intentional way and putting away all other stimulus, all other noise. So maybe it's just going for a walk around the block, but just challenging yourself to be present with your body while you're walking, and just start to get curious. Activate that inner investigator and ask them, how do I feel? What do I notice? And just go from there. It doesn't have to be for long periods of time, but if movement feels like it's the most accessible way to eventually sit in silence for 10 minutes, then great. Choose your own adventure.
I love that.
I know I use the gym as meditation time because there's no way to access concepts outside of what I'm doing at that point in time. I can't think about work as I'm doing a squat. I think about the squat, or I'm going to get hurt, or I'm just not going to complete the lift. And I'm doing it without intention. If I want to progress in the weight room, if I want to become better, I have to be very intentional. Every movement matters. And I think we separate meditation and movement because we assume, like we've been told a lot of nonsensical things throughout media, that it's sitting with your legs crossed and your, thumb and your middle finger together, making weird noises with your head shaved. It's like, that's inaccessible to me.
Yeah.
I can't even touch my pinkies to my thumbs, and touching my middle fingers cramps up my hand. So I can't sit there for a whole long time. And I just am super ADD. I got a lot going on in my brain, that guy's moving pretty quick sometimes. So being able to access that is only possible for me through the weight room. I think it's cool that people that have accessed it for as long and to the level that you have also see the connection between physical movement and access to the interior portion of your body.
Yeah. Well, back to that whole idea of we are also human. Not every time I try to sit down and be quiet is that accessible for me, especially after even weeks like this where my daughter was in an accident and I have had so many sleepless nights that I have not been able to sit down and get any quiet time to myself. So I've just challenged myself to move my body and to just ask my body, because it will respond to you. How you feeling there, sister? What's going on? What do you need?
Well, I used to do that with my kiddos and that little, what is it, a baby Bjorn? A little baby backpack.
Strap them to your chest. Yeah.
We'd listen to Frank Sinatra and I'd just walk around. It's like, I don't know what to do. I can't go anywhere because they're too little. So how do I just exist, Yeah, that's really
Take a
cool.
work walk.
Take a work walk.
I love it. It's so good. So we've talked about some of the things we can do to tap into our creativity, but what kills creativity?
A delicious question.
Delicious. Eh?
Juicy.
Delicious. So back to the physical body. Ignoring our partner in creativity, which is the physical body. Ignoring it through loud and noisy foods and drink that dull down that inner light, that make us feel heavier. And I'm not talking mass-wise. It's that feeling, it's that sensation. You all know after you've eaten something super greasy how you feel. And so you can't focus on anything else except the And so focusing on...
It's perfect. It's like the best precursor for the health domain ever.
I know.
Focusing on things that are not... are noisy and are loud within our body cause that disconnect. And also lack of space. I'm not talking physical space. I'm talking mental space. If we have a day that is just boom, 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 back to back to back activities and programs and meetings, where is there space for you to rest, for your sense of self-awareness to come out? So physical body and space are two things that can both be partners in activating our creativity. But when we don't have those things present in our life, they can also be huge creativity killers.
Well, and I like what you said because it just made me think of how I planned my day today, because I can't, if I have to do something that requires my full focus, I can't be doing it in between meetings like you just said. So this whole morning, I didn't have to do any creative things, but I had to do a lot of administrative things that require me to be like fully engaged, and it's stuff I've never done before, so I don't exactly know what I'm doing, and it's going to require a lot of problem solving. So I gave myself the entire first half of the day today to just get administrative crap knocked out. and it's like system stuff and setting up payroll and just things like that I'm not thrilled about. But if, like you said, I'm trying to do it in between something, it's just going to make me more frantic.
I love that you said that you were problem solving, because I think we think that problem solving doesn't fall into the bucket of creativity. But I think some of the most creative people are the best problem solvers, because they see that there are so many different possible routes in which could be taken to get to that final destination. And so that was just a little aside there, back to folks that say they're not creative, but require themselves to solve problems all day long at work. You're creative, just in a different way.
Yeah, it's more of a utilitarian purpose. Like, it serves a purpose, right? It's to make the organization more efficient or to overcome a challenge that the organization is experiencing. But it's the same part of our brain that's required as creativity. So I think it is one and the same, right? I think when we think of creativity, it's more of like an aesthetic thing. It's looks and creating something that's beautiful. A lot of times marketing is for creatives. People think of marketing and associate it with creativity, make it look pretty. I can't do that. I'm not creative. Well, no, you might just be a little bit more utilitarian in your problem solving or in your thinking, and that has a purpose too. It's definitely in the same category in my mind.
Yeah, I love that. I really hope that those that are receiving these messages, wherever you're at, recognize you are creative in your own unique way.
Oh, yeah. Okay, one last question.
Sure.
Because we have spent a lot of time in marketing and creativity during this discussion, but there's a very important part of being a business owner that I think a lot of people can relate to, and it's the sales process. And I will tell you that your sales process was like the most easy sales process that I've ever experienced, because you weren't selling to me at all. So I want you to share a little bit about how you approach sales in your business.
Yeah, I love this question, because it wasn't always this way either, right? It's that winding journey that I had to go through, almost the exact opposite of where my sales process is now, to know that that gave me a major ick and I needed to change some things up. And so I'd like to invite us to think about sales as relationship building. That, again, going into a discovery call, I do a couple of things. I set an intention, and I also say a little prayer that both myself and the person showing up receive something out of this engagement. And that is my only expectation.
Okay, let's just pause right there. Because most sales professionals are going to go into a conversation with the intention to sell said product or service. It is very important to realize that what Amanda just shared was she just wants both parties involved to walk away from the conversation feeling like it was a good use of time and they got something productive out of it. That is the right mindset to approach sales. 1,000%. I will die on that hill.
I will die on that hill with you. There's nothing that I dislike more, especially after becoming a mom, than wasting time.
Oh, yes.
And so to go into a conversation where I look at it not as a transaction, but as an opportunity to build a relationship, whether that relationship is only meant to be built in that moment and nothing else, it's an opportunity to make the world a little bit of a better place. I have no idea who this person is most of the time, what it is they're going through. And so if I can just show up and hold space to listen to them, then I've done something really good with my time, and I feel really good about that. So that's my sales process. It's showing up, letting go of expectations to convert any conversation, because I also am using that time to qualify the individual. And this is back to the idea of tuning into the body. I will get a subtle reaction, sometimes not so subtle, and it'll be either really expansive and come over me like, hell yes, I need to work with this person. We are going to make some magic together. Or I will get a very contractive feeling, typically in my gut, and I'm like, this is a no, but you know what? Maybe I have a resource or a person that I can point them in the direction of that's going to guide them to their yes. So I go into these conversations not just trying to get something out of it, but to truly be of service and to share that space in a meaningful way. And from there, if we're meant to work together, if we're meant to co-create something together, then I trust it is so.
What's super interesting, we've ran into some really interesting salespeople in the last, about a month. I'm actually going to send them this podcast. I'm stamped from here on, and y'all know who you are, because there is an overarching goal from the salesman generally, the ones that I'm talking about, to immediately sell an item to somebody. The problem is those items are being sold to solve a problem, whether it's a lack of a vehicle or they need a new vehicle or they want tickets to something or whatever, access to something. That is solving a problem. The issue is we go into sales assuming we know the problem before we know the person or their problem. So how can you solve a problem you don't even know exists? So without setting an intention of listening, shutting up, and letting the person tell you about them, you can never find the problem. So therefore, you're never able to actually solve something. So you've kind of shot yourself in the foot at the beginning. If you can't hear the problem and the issue, I mean, where are you going with that?
And a really important thing that Amanda mentioned, she said, hold space and listen to them. It wasn't hold space, share my value prop, and give my elevator pitch. It was hold space and listen. That means you have to be quiet. That is what is implied in that. So if you want to take what we're saying and apply it into your process, be the one that listens in that conversation, because we want to meet people who are interested, not interesting. We want to have conversations with people who are genuinely interested in what we have to say, not interesting and want to be the loudest voice in the room. That generally isn't what people want to gravitate towards.
And they tend to buy things to get you to shut up, get out of the way. That's really normal. I mean, the analogy of a used car salesman forcing you to buy said item is really, it's real. You're so aggressive and so over the top that a docile person will just bow down to it. I mean, buyer's remorse is real because a lot of times you're pushed into buying what you don't even want. You're convinced by somebody that has an agenda to do something to help them that doesn't help you at all.
Yeah, especially when you're in a service-based position such as myself. You don't want that individual to experience buyer's remorse, because not only then did they just invest with me, but they're investing not just their money, but their time, their energy, their creativity. They're investing into a relationship together. And I want to be in a relationship with somebody. If I get to choose this, if I get to call the shots in this space I'm in, and most of the time I do, I want to work with people that want to show up. They are trusting me with their hopes, their dreams, their wishes for this bigger, better world that they believe they can contribute to and make a difference and make an impact. And so I don't take that lightly. I don't take that as, all right, one more website to build. This is a place that they are now going to be of service from. This is a place where they're going to make an impact from. And so I take all of those things into consideration when I qualify my clients. They're not just qualifying me, but I want to make sure we really are going to be a right fit. Because I've had the experience where we weren't the right fit. And that was really hard. But we had the conversation. We made amends and decided to part ways. And it was beautiful and such a learning process. So learning from even that experience itself, I know that I want to be in relationship with somebody that is going to be at the level that I need them to be. I want to be in relationship with somebody that is going to show up fully and give me their best self. Because I also do have other clients to attend to besides my one client that they are not just my star of the show. And so I count on them to be timely with their feedback and the deadlines that I give to them and the work that I require of them to do. And so it really is keeping all of those things in the back of your mind. Do I want to be in an engaged partnership with this person for quite a while? And also, when the time comes and we part ways, are we going to feel so good about what it is we built together? And so it's like having the wherewithal to just even ask those questions before even committing to a discovery call with somebody.
Yeah, so crucial. Solid advice.
So just so everybody can get wrap their head around your phenomenal creativity.
Please go to odysseyresilience.org.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, because I need you to understand I am a weightlifting meathead, and there's absolutely no way I could have come anywhere close to that. Kylie, you're way ahead of me with that creativity portion. You probably could have gotten pretty close, but what you created, Amanda, was phenomenal. Like when I open up the website, I get happy because it's like, this is what we felt like it needed to look like. I just couldn't put it into words.
We probably have so many visits to the website that are just you and me.
Yeah.
Because I know I visited at least thrice daily.
But I'm excited to show people what the website looks like.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about what we're doing. And this is just a physical representation of our excitement and our values.
Yeah.
I just think that's incredible.
Yeah. So, Amanda, how can people connect with you, follow you, tell them all the things?
Yes. So best way to find me is my website, amandathomascreative.com. And then I am ever so sparingly on the old IG on Instagram at Amanda Thomas Creative. I've really back to that intention, even kind of thinking about our sales process here, really set the intention that I know I am of best and greatest service when I'm working with individuals that have been referred to me. So social media just gets to kind of be that portfolio highlight reel place. But I really love deep, meaningful conversations and long walks on the beach. So best place to find me is my website. Send me an email, hello@amandathomascreative.com. Would love to just get to know you, have a virtual coffee. I might be drinking tea with a splash of honey in it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your creative words of inspiration with us. I feel like I need to go take a work walk.
Right.
But we have another podcast to record. So
Yes.
On that note, we'll let you go and get back to the baby, and we will talk to you so soon.
Thank you guys. This has been a blast.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
And follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.